We are at 38,767, so close to $39,000 for Bitcoin, and we're in the last day of February, and it doesn't sound like a lot. But if you think about it, we've been through the Canadian trucker crisis, we've been through a Nasdaq correction, and we've been through an invasion and potentially the start of a war, and Bitcoin is now, if you look at the monthly candle on Bitcoin, Bitcoin is pretty much flat on the month. That's huge. I mean, that is huge. If you think about what's happened this month and you think about where Bitcoin is given everything that's happened in the month of February, the fact that we are now at 39,000 or very close to 39,000 is a huge feat. But the past is the past, and I think what we're going to talk about today is what we can expect next, because Russia is talking about nukes, the US is talking about nukes, Russia and Ukraine are having peace talks right now as we speak. In fact, I think that the peace talks are just finished. Is that right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, peace talks just finished. Any feedback on the peace talks?
Not yet.
All right, so we may get some feedback on the peace talks. So we've got a big show for you. Also, we're going to be talking about whether the Russians are considering XRP. There have been some reports that the Russians may be considering XRP as an alternative to SWIFT. Is that true? That's what we're going to find out today. We've got some scoop for you guys, and we're going to talk about why Luna is holding up. So yeah, let's talk about that. It's going to be a big show. Let's do it. Yo, get the fuck out of bed, bitches, because we are at the month end, and it looks like we're going to get a green candle at the end of this month. And who would have thought that in the month of February, given everything that Bitcoin saw this month, we would be closing on a stable and maybe even a little bit upwards on Bitcoin. If I would have told you that a week ago or 2 weeks ago, you would have told me I'm crazy. But here we are, and today we're going to find out exactly why it is that this may be happening and what the future holds for Bitcoin and for a couple of altcoins that we're going to be discussing here today. So it is what it is. Welcome back, guys. I'm Crypto Man Ran. If you're new to our channel, subscribe to our channel, like this video. I know a lot of you said that you didn't want the long intros, but I thought today was one of those days where we need to get the fuck out of bed. It just feels like one of those days where you want to get the fuck out of bed. So that's one of those days. What else is there today? I got my man Hustle here. My man Hustle, what is happening today on the gaming show?
Oh, we got a lot on the gaming show today. We got details of the partnership between Sandbox and Vulcan Forge as they're collaborating on a multiverse collaboration. As we've talked about, the multiverses as where you can bring a character into a different metaverse. That's going to be the key down the line, where you can use characters from different projects. And then we have a lot to cover from good and bad, as there was a big time NFT project that was very hyped that really has some big clouds around them right now. And we're going to talk about the red flags to look for on projects because, amongst all these good projects that do pop up over time in both gaming and the NFT space, there are red flags to look for. So today we're going to cover some of those, as well as a ton of upcoming land sales and releases for some games to look out for.
All right, buddy. Stay in the chat, guys. If you must watch Hustle Show. It's the highest alpha show on the channel. That's for sure. Also, if you missed Miles' show this morning, so Miles did a show about sex. Yeah, it's sex. The token is called sex. Everyone thought it was sex. It's solidly deck sex. That's what it is. You got to watch the show. He spoke about his strategy for getting 2,000% returns, and it is really an insane show. Anyway, let's not waste too much time with the intros. Let's look at where we are today, right now. And if you look at where we are today, right now, we are at 38,786, and that is after a weekend of fighting in Ukraine. I think one of the most iconic fights that we've ever seen. Specifically, we saw the president of Ukraine come out as a hero. He did things like he said, this may be the last time you see me alive. And he was urging the Europeans and the Americans to send him help. And when he was asked whether he wanted a ride or a lift out of Ukraine, his response was, I think, a response which is going to make him Time Magazine's Person of the Year. He said something like, I don't need a ride, I need anti-tank artillery. And the Ukrainians put up an amazing fight this weekend. In fact, they've stopped the Russians from capturing Kiev so far. And I think that the Russians grossly underestimated how hard the Ukrainians were going to fight. And as it stands right now, the Ukrainians still hold Kiev, and the president of Ukraine has gone to peace talks or peace negotiations with Russia in Belarus. The the images that we saw, I think, are gonna last for a hell of a long time. And I think Russia completely underestimated the response that Ukraine were gonna bring. Another thing which Russia definitely underestimated was how the rest of the world, the EU, the crypto world, the rest of the world would respond to the Russian attack on Ukraine. I'm sure Putin anticipated that he would get some kind of pushback. But I think the pushback that he got, not only from the Ukrainian soldiers, but from the ECB, from the EU, from the US, from Germany, from Holland. Let's take a look at what happened over the weekend. So, yeah, we just got news that the talks actually have failed, and they expected the talks to fail. Listen to this. This is some of the sanctions that were imposed on the weekend. And this is, I think, much more than what Putin anticipated.
European Union steps up once more its support for Ukraine and the sanctions against the aggressor that is Putin's Russia. For the first time ever, the European Union will finance the purchase and delivery of weapons and other equipment to a country that is under attack. This is a watershed moment. HRVP Borrell will present to you the proposal in a few minutes. At the same time, we're strengthening once more our sanctions against the Kremlin and its collaborator, Lukashenko's regime. First, we are shutting down the EU airspace for Russians. We're proposing a prohibition on all Russian-owned, Russian-registered, and Russian-controlled aircraft. These aircraft will no more be able to land in, take off, or overfly the territory of the European Union. This will apply to any plane, owned, chartered, or otherwise controlled by a Russian legal or natural person. So let me be very clear. Our airspace will be closed to every Russian plane, and that includes the private jets of oligarchs too. Second, in another unprecedented step, we will ban in the European Union the Kremlin's media machine. The state-owned Russia Today and Sputnik, as well as their subsidiaries, will no longer be able to spread their lies to justify Putin's war and to sow division in our union. So we are developing tools to ban that toxic and harmful disinformation in Europe. And third, we will target the other aggressor of this war, Lukashenko's regime. Lukashenko's regime is complicit in the vicious attack against Ukraine.
So the European Union are coming out against Putin, coming out against Lukashenko, coming out against everything, coming out against the entire situation. Also coming out with sanctions that are kind of unprecedented. So not letting oligarchs fly Russian-owned planes, Russian-owned jets, economic sanctions, freezing of a whole lot of funds. Germany announced this weekend that despite its trade partnerships with Russia, they agreed to cut Russia off from SWIFT. We had Hungary and Italy also agreed to cut Russia off from SWIFT. And it seems that Russia is being targeted and probably is going to be taken off SWIFT. We'll talk about that in a couple of seconds. But this affects not only Russia as a country, but a whole lot of Russian oligarchs. So remember that there are a whole lot of Russian oligarchs that own a whole lot of businesses in the UK, in the USA. And all those Russian oligarchs, anyone who's a Russian oligarch is being targeted by this. And one of the most iconic people that has been targeted by this is Roman Abramovich. Roman Abramovich is the oligarch who owns the Chelsea Football Club. And he has been targeted. Take a listen to this.
The EU and US also announcing new sanctions against Russian elites. I saw one piece, Robert. Some guy lost his villa in Italy or something. He was crying. Some Russian guy on TV. I don't know whether you saw it, but this is hitting individuals. And I'm sure we're going to have some crazy anecdotes and stories after it's all said and done.
Yeah, I guess that was a famous TV anchor who may lose his Lake Como estate. So tragedy there. But over the weekend, a lot of new sanctions by Europe and the U.S. against a whole swath of Russian elites. Now, they include a ban on sales of golden passports. Those are the citizenship plans that have allowed the biggest billionaires to protect their assets in other countries and avoid sanctions. There will be a new transatlantic task force That's to identify and freeze the assets of sanctioned oligarchs and companies, and more Russian elites and their families will be added to the sanctions list. Now, even the biggest oligarchs starting to feel the pressure. Roman Abramovich handed over control of Chelsea FC, that's the famed football club, to its trustees over the weekend after growing calls for all of his assets to be seized. Michael Friedman, he's worth about $11 billion.
So oligarchs are getting targeted. Their credit cards are not working anymore. Any Russian-based credit card, any Visa or MasterCard, which are issued by Russian-based banks, are under sanctions and will no longer work. That means ordinary Russians who want to travel abroad, who want to use their Visas and their MasterCards, well, their MasterCards ain't going to work. So these are really unprecedented sanctions. And I think that Putin grossly underestimated the Ukrainian response and the world's response. And what we're seeing now in Russia, or we're seeing in the US, that we're seeing that the US is starting to freeze a lot of assets of Russian companies. Listen to this.
Well, Andrew, we're just getting some news out of the Treasury Department about what these sanctions from the US and allies will look like. The Treasury Department announcing that it will be essentially blocking transactions with Russia's central bank in the US and any of those transactions that are happening in dollars overseas. They will also be sanctioning Russia's direct investment fund. It's a move with a goal of essentially trying to limit Russia's access to any transactions worldwide, to take direct aim at depleting any rainy day reserves that Russia has been building up for the last 8 years. It's a coordinated move with many Western allies, Canada, Japan, European countries as well. No word on where China stands, which has been conspicuously absent from that list of countries. Now, a senior administration official just a few moments ago said that these actions will take effect immediately, that the administration wanted to put them out before markets open to give the market a sense of being able to digest exactly what the impact will be. These officials said that they've been in discussions with regulators for months to try to understand and limit any potential fallout in the markets or with financial institutions from here. But it just underscores what we've heard from many in the White House, that Russia needs to feel more pain.
And Russia is feeling the pain. I mean, Russia is really starting to feel the pain. This is what's happening right now. So in Russia today, everybody's making a run to get their money out of the banks and to swap the Russian ruble for US dollars. And if you look at the Russian ruble against the US dollar, it's gone down 32.5% today because people don't want to be holding rubles anymore. So how's Russia responded? Well, Russia's kind of responded like a DeFi protocol. They said, look, if everybody's withdrawing their money from the Russian banks and everybody's swapping their Russian rubles for foreign currencies, well, what we're going to do is we are going to, I think they doubled the interest rates. So the interest rates got up to, here we go, the interest rates went up to 20%. So they doubled the Russian interest rate. So the Russian ruble is now acting like a DeFi shitcoin, and they're trying to double the APY to keep people invested in the Russian ruble. But on a more serious note, what we are seeing is we're seeing people running to get their money out of the ATMs, out of the banks. These are some images of some lines. Lines and lines and lines of people trying to get their money out of Russian banks. And what we're hearing from our people on the ground in Russia is that the banks are not selling US dollars to the people anymore. So if people want to buy US dollars, people are buying them on the black market. And they're paying a whole lot of money for these, they're paying premiums to get US dollars. And they're paying premiums to get USDT. And they're paying premiums to get USD. And they're paying premiums of up to 30, 40, and 50% to get Bitcoin, because they can't get Bitcoin because they can't KYC themselves, because all of the avenues have kind of blocked them from KYCing themselves. So that is something to look out for. We have heard, or we've seen, that Russians, individuals, have taken out almost 1 trillion or 10 billion in cash from the Russian banking system in just a few days. So this is a serious bank run on the Russian ruble. Nobody wants to hold the Russian ruble anymore. And it's making Putin feel, I think, as if he underestimated how this was going to be played. Not only in terms of the Ukrainian response, and he definitely underestimated the Ukrainian response. And I found a thread here about how Putin may have underestimated the Ukrainian response. The thread is it's from a guy called Riho Terras, and he is a member of the EU Parliament. And he says, intel from a Ukrainian officer about the meeting in Putin's lair in Urals, oligarchs convened so no one would flee. Putin is furious. He thought the whole war would be easy and everything would be done in 1 to 4 days. He grossly underestimated it. They didn't have a tactical plan. The war is costing Russia $20 billion a day. There are rockets for 3 to 4 days at most. They are using them sparingly. They lack weapons. We've seen them running out of gas. We've seen them running out of food. We've seen them running out of rifles. But I guess the most important part of this tweet storm is that if Ukraine manages to hold the Russians off for a couple of days, say for 10 more days, then the Russians will have to enter negotiation because they kind of have no more money and no more resources and to keep fighting this war. They don't have enough weapons, and even if they wanted to get weapons, it would take 3 to 4 months for these weapons to be made. So maybe Putin underestimated this entire thing. Another sign that maybe he underestimated this entire thing is that for the first time, Putin is actually talking about nukes, and he's not talking directly about nuclear bombs. But he is hinting that he's putting a nuclear deterrent force on high alert. Listen to this.
Russian President Vladimir Putin put Russia's nuclear arsenal on high alert on Sunday, further raising the stakes amid his military assault on Ukraine. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky remained defiant, pledging to remain in the capital, Kyiv. Sunday, he'd agreed to new negotiations without preconditions with Moscow, even though he didn't hold out much hope.
I do not really believe in the outcome of this meeting.
So Putin putting a nuke deterrent squad on high alert. Zelensky saying he's not really bullish on any kind of talks. The irony is, or the funny thing is, I found this tweet and I researched this tweet, and in the US, a website called ready.gov/nuclear explosion has been updated. So this site was posted. Scroll down to the bottom, you can see it was last updated on the 25th of February 2022, which is like 25th of February 2022 was Friday or Saturday. And they were talking about how to deal with a nuclear explosion, telling people to get inside, to remove contaminated clothing, to not interact with other people, to start preparing now. This is what seems like a US government website, and it's starting to prepare people for nuclear or to speak about nuclear stuff. And I guess I found that a little bit worrying or concerning that the US is even entertaining discussions around nukes. It must be one of the first times that the US is talking about nukes. One of the things that's happening is that as part of these sanctions, most countries have agreed or are agreeing to cut Russia off SWIFT. Switzerland has agreed, Germany has agreed, Italy has agreed, Hungary has agreed, and it does look like Russia is going to be cut off from SWIFT. And there is talk from Russia around whether the Russian central bank says we have our own system internally that can replace SWIFT. They're now talking about their own system internally that can replace SWIFT. And I mean, we got reports from BitBoy. I mean, BitBoy was saying things like Russian getting cut from SWIFT system, XRP army, explain where does XRP fit into this. So what we did was we sent in our top guns, really our best investigative journalists, and we wanted to find out what is the chances that Russia would use SWIFT, would adopt XRP instead of SWIFT. We put our best people on the job, and they wrote an article about it. So I think you should go to the website and read the article about it. I can help you read the article. Basically, it said, is Russia set to adopt XRP? And will Russia adopt XRP imminently? And that's the article. No. That's the whole article. No, so the answer is no. Russia's not adopting XRP imminently. It's a great article, by the way. It's the best article we've read. We put out. I hope it was proofread. and edited. The answer is no. Well done to the journalist team. Well done, guys. Well done. I actually have to share this. I actually have to share this on Twitter right now. If you're watching, Let's share this on Twitter. Let's share this on Twitter. Let's get the people that aren't watching. Let's get them. Hold on. Yeah, this is huge news for XRP. And then the Shracha at BitBoy. Have you seen this?
You're all gonna make it.
Let me tweet that to BitBoy. Will Russia adopt? No. I love it. Best article of the year. Best article of the year by our journalists. Seriously, the best article of the year. All right, so what has this all done to markets? Well, what has this all done to markets? Yesterday, what we saw Bitcoin. We actually saw Bitcoin had a great weekend, and I think Bitcoin is actually back above 39. In fact, Bitcoin is at 39,400 right now as we speak. It had a great weekend, and then just before the end of the weekend, the Bitcoin price came down, and that was in anticipation of the Nasdaq market open. But if you look at the Nasdaq market open, Joseph, what did I say to you while we were preparing the show? Did I not tell you that the Nasdaq would open in the green?
You did.
And the Nasdaq is opening in the green. That's exactly what happened. The market anticipated the worst. Can you translate the article into Spanish, someone says? So the market turned into the green, and you can see that I think a lot of the markets have actually, or will turn into the green right now as it goes. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing that the Nasdaq, or the QQQ, which is the index, or the ETF, which represents the Nasdaq, has the largest amount of short positions open that it's had since April 20, sorry, March, when was COVID? April 20, March 2020. We have the biggest short positions open in the Nasdaq since March 2020. And this could mean that the Nasdaq may be short squeezed soon. And if the Nasdaq does get short squeezed soon, because Bitcoin has been tracking the Nasdaq so well, now we could get a short squeeze on the Nasdaq, which would send the Nasdaq up. And if the Nasdaq went up, we'd probably get Bitcoin going up. What we also know is that historically, every time that the S&P has had a 10% or more pullback or a drawdown, it has been a historical bottom for Bitcoin. And we've just had another 10% drawdown on Bitcoin. We've seen every single time that we've gone down 10% or more. You can see it over here. That has started off a little Bitcoin cycle. And I don't think that this one is going to be very different, because I think a lot of this is already priced into the market. I think a ton of this news is priced into the market. We did have the peace talks by Ukraine, and apparently they failed. Joe, have they failed? No news yet. Okay, no news yet coming out. No news yet coming out of it. Anyway, all of this is now going to start potentially a new narrative. And the new narrative that's going to start coming out now, we've had the wartime narrative for quite a while. The new narrative that probably will start being played in the media, and remember you heard this here first, is the inflation narrative. So now that you've got the war narrative out and you've got the peace talks narrative out, the next narrative that may start coming out, or is going to start coming out, is the narrative around inflation. And the reason why that narrative is going to come out around inflation is because remember that on the 15th and 16th of March is the big FOMC meeting. It's when Jerome Powell and the Fed meet to discuss the potential or the talk around the increase in interest rates. And remember that for the entire downturn over here, the entire down market over here, the talk was around inflation and how the Fed would respond to inflation. And what people were scared of was they were scared that the Fed would increase rates aggressively because of inflation. And so now the inflation narrative's coming back into the mix. And if you look at what we see when it comes to inflation, the first thing is we see that the Deputy Prime Minister of Netherlands is saying that inflation is the price we have to pay to battle Putin. So already governments are starting to blame inflation, not on COVID and the fact that they printed so much money, but on the fact that there's now a war. And the reason why that's so significant is because for as long as there is a war, then governments can't really increase interest rates. They can't increase interest rates aggressively when there's this whole wartime narrative. And so speculation is that if there is rampant inflation and governments don't want to increase interest rates or can't increase interest rates, they can just blame the inflation on the war. So it's not about the fact that they printed more money. It's about the fact that we're in the middle of a war with Russia. Now, the war with Russia is causing commodity prices to go absolutely crazy. Now, if you look at the changes of the commodity prices over the last year, you're seeing coffee up 70%. I think we should stop drinking coffee. We should start drinking something else. If coffee goes up 75%, I'm stopping coffee. I can't afford to keep drinking coffee. Aluminium is up 63%. Natural gas and crude oil. Natural gas up 61%, directly related to Russia. Brent crude oil up 48%, directly related to Russia. Heating oil up 48%, gasoline up 48%, WTI crude, cotton, wheat, lumber, corn, soybeans. They are all up, these numbers. But CPI right now is only 7.5%, which doesn't make sense because all of these are the components of what we consume every single day, and they're up a whole lot. And if you look at a lot of these are Russia-related commodities. So you think about crude, you think about gas, you think about oil. Those are all Russia-related commodities. But be that as it may, the issue of what we're going to get now is we're going to get this rampant inflation. We're about to see inflation go through the roof. If you thought that last month 7.5% was the highest you've ever seen it, you're about to see inflation go through the roof. But this time, governments actually have a scapegoat. And the scapegoat is, well, look, we're at war with Russia. We're at war with Russia. It's driving up prices. This is not about bad government management. This is not about the Fed. This is not about the Fed printing a lot of money. This is about something completely different. This specifically is around war with Russia. That's the new narrative that governments are going to start adopting. And if you look at housing prices in the States, the increase, the nominal increase in housing prices is now 19% year on year. So in 2021, the housing market increased by 19%. So I looked back and I thought, when was there another year when the housing market increased by 19%? And you go back, and the last time that you had the housing market increased by 19% in a single year was 1946, which was the year after the war. Can you believe that? So people living in the States, and they're talking about a 7.5% inflation. That inflation number is much higher and about to go through the roof. Also, if you think about what's happening in Russia for the ordinary Russians that are living in Russia, you've got the Russian ruble sinking to all-time lows, and with the Russian ruble at these numbers, the inflation in Russia can be estimated at about 70%. So you're getting inflation in Russia possibly around 70%. Now, with these numbers, with these high inflation numbers, effectively what's happening is the Fed cannot increase interest rates aggressively like they wanted to. Remember that we're going into the Fed meeting on the 15th and 16th of March, and we'll hear on the 16th of March exactly what Jerome Powell is saying about inflation. So while everyone is obsessed on this war narrative, we're looking one step forward and we're saying, look, the inflation narrative is going to come out now. And the inflation narrative is going to be pretty much this. It's pretty much that the market is saying that there cannot be a 50 to 75 basis point increase. It's not going to work. It's too crazy. So what is there going to be? Well, they're forecasting between 25 and 50 basis points. And there is a small chance. It's a very, very, very small chance. But if tensions continue to escalate in Ukraine, if the tensions in Ukraine continue to escalate, there is a very small chance that the Fed actually won't be able to increase interest rates. There is a possibility that if we get an increase in what's happening in Ukraine, an escalation of what's happening in Ukraine, and things get a little bit more out of hand, then the Fed won't be able to increase interest rates. And if the Fed doesn't increase interest rates, then imagine what would happen to Bitcoin and to the Nasdaq, or to the Nasdaq and then Bitcoin, because it's being priced like a growth stock, right? Imagine what would happen there. So let's keep all eyes on the Fed and on increasing interest rates. And I think that we're going to get a 25% basis point. And if we do, then I think the market will continue to run in the absence of anything else happening. In the absence of anything else happening. Alrighty, so that is all of that. What else is there today? What else is there today? I mean, you know what you got to look at? You got to look at Bitcoin and say, look, let's look at the monthly candle now. Forget about everything else. Let's block the noise and say, we've had a war. We've had the Canada situation. We've had, what else have we had this month? We've had a war, Canada, a Nasdaq correction. We've had the Banter team coming to South Africa. We've had Miles join Banter. What else happened, Feb? Inflation numbers came out. And all in all, now we're getting a green candle. So now in the last hour or so, the candle has actually turned to be green. So what we're seeing is that technically, or on the charts, even after everything that's happening, the numbers, Bitcoin is actually now turning to green, which shows you that the market is looking forward and pricing all of that. But that's not the good news. The good news is that the charts, the on-chain data actually talks exactly to the charts. So the charts is just a reflection of what's happening on the on-chain data. The chart is closing the month today. Today is the monthly close, positive, right? The on-chain data is telling the same kind of story. What is the on-chain data telling us? The on-chain data is saying the following. The on-chain data, for those of you who don't know, you don't know. Oh yeah, Fred farted during the show in February as well. We mustn't forget that. And we still got a green candle. So, so the charts are telling us that Bitcoin closed green. What we're seeing on-chain is even more impressive, in my opinion. We're seeing a situation where we've seen the Canada tracker scenario. We've seen a nation asking for donations in crypto. We've seen nations trying to ban crypto. And in all of this, what we have seen is that the number of non-zero addresses has increased to the highest level ever. So what's happening here is that people are actually buying Bitcoin. New players are getting into the market. And it's probably as a result of what's going on, new players are actually getting into the market. The numbers don't lie. You've got, in January, we had, at the end of, on the 5th of Feb, we had 40,275,000 accounts with a non-zero balance. And now that number has gone up by about 1,000 accounts with a non-zero balance, which means that not only that people aren't selling, but also that new entrants are getting into the market with new addresses. Then we've also got 76.5% of Bitcoin has not moved in at least 6 months, and that's a record. So what we're saying is new people are coming into the Bitcoin market. People that are in the Bitcoin market are holding it. The supply on exchanges, which is this chart over here, the supply on exchanges is now at an all-time low. I mean, if you look at, not an all-time low, but certainly since 2018 October, that was in the last time when the supply on exchanges was this low. So you put all of these things together and you say to yourself, okay, first of all, new entrants are coming into the market because they're seeing what's going on and how Bitcoin fixes all of this. People that are holding Bitcoin, well, they're just holding it because they're not moving it. In the last 6 months, 76.5% of accounts haven't moved Bitcoin. And people are taking their Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin and taking it off exchanges. And the reason why that's happening was summarized beautifully by Coin Bureau. And he says, we're only 2 months into the year, and we've already seen a government attempt to freeze crypto donations. Trudeau didn't succeed. A government asking for crypto donations. Okay? And only one of these two are possible. Other countries should take note and follow Ukraine's lead. You don't have to fight it. And in fact, I saw a tweet this weekend. I mean, I'm not the biggest Peter McCormack fan, but every now and then he has an amazing tweet. And he tweeted, he said something along the lines of, we've seen Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. I have to find this tweet for you guys. I have to find this tweet. You will laugh your head off if I find this tweet for you. He said something like, remember when Justin Trudeau ran away because the truckers, because of a trucker crisis, and then he compared that to Zelensky and how he's been in the trenches. Anyway, so let's talk about the support of Ukraine. And what we saw is there is one more thing I wanted to show you here, but ruble denominated Bitcoin volume surged to a 9-month high. And that was an article by CoinDesk. And you can see how in Russia, people are trying to escape the system. Now, all too often, what happens here is that people try to escape the system when it's too late. So instead of waiting until it's too late and until your country does something stupid and until your president does something stupid and tries to invade Ukraine or tries to stop donations to trackers, people should get into Bitcoin before this, not wait until they have to pay premiums and stuff like that. All right, people are saying, let's look at Luna immediately. Let's look at Luna immediately.
Listed on the FTX
Is it listed on FTX?
right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, hold on. Bitcoin's going up towards 40,000. And I think Luna, let's quickly look at Luna. Let's see, Luna, is Luna on a tear? We're going to talk about Luna. Up 9% to $80. I told you it was going to $100 before the end of March. Maybe it'll get there even sooner. It'll probably get there even sooner. We'll talk about that in a second. Just before we talk about that, let's quickly look at the donations given to Ukraine, because this is a big thing. You know, for the first time, we're having a nation state requesting. You got to put things into perspective. You have a nation state requesting donations in Bitcoin and ETH. Who would have thought that a nation at war, which has been blocked by many banks, international banks, etc., broken internet communication. What are they asking people to do? Send crypto, send us arms, and send us crypto. Because now in this, we're seeing what the priorities are, and we know now that there is over $20 million that was sent by the crypto community to Ukraine. Now we know that the Bitcoin community. Let me just quickly refresh this. But the Bitcoin community has sent 151 Bitcoin. How much is 151 Bitcoin? That is $6 million. That's $6 million, about $6 million in Bitcoin. And then obviously the rest has been sent in Ethereum. This is the Ethereum address. There's only 157,000 in the Ethereum address, but that's because they keep withdrawing the money. 200,000 in the Ethereum address. So a nation state is asking people to donate. We at Crypto Banter are launching an amazing initiative. We're launching an initiative where we're going to be selling NFT art, and that NFT art, all the proceeds are going to be going to Ukraine, to fund Ukraine. Now, I want to actually try and show you some of the art. Let me see if I can open it for you. The art is insane. You guys sent it. Artists sent it to us. We're going to be. Ooh, okay. There's so much going on here. I'll show you one or two pictures here. This is stuff that people from the community sent. You know what, I'll post it on my Twitter just to speed up the show. I'll post it on my Twitter. But we're starting an initiative where we're doing a collection of NFTs, and all the proceeds from that collection are going to be given to Ukraine, and all the resale are also going to be given to Ukraine. What is it? What's the initiative called? We initially wanted to call it Fuck War, and then we said we can't call it Fuck War because it's got the word fuck. It's called Art Against War. That's what it's called. So it's artagainstwar.nft. The website will be up tomorrow, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. What else? I don't know if you saw Dr. Gavin Wood. He wanted to donate $5 million, but he said, look, only if you post a dot address, I'll contribute $5 million. I hope he does. I hope he doesn't hold them to the dot address. Binance gave $10 million to Ukraine to help the humanitarian crisis, which is amazing. Pretty much, I think I agree with this tweet. And I think I've been saying this tweet for so long. It summarizes everything. It says positioning yourself for downside here is the easy option, but you're very late to the party. This is like arriving at the altcoin party. So positioning yourself for downside here is like positioning yourself here. See, this is why I switch off my emails during the show. Let me switch it off again. Otherwise, we're going to get lots of people disturbing us during the show, and I still want to talk about altcoins. So, okay, there we go. My email's off. So you can see, okay, Bitcoin now heading towards 40,000. Amazing. We'll talk about Luna in a second, but positioning yourself for downside here is really like positioning yourself for upside over here. You're catching the bottom of the cycle, and then you're positioning yourself for downside. And that's probably the wrong approach. The approach now is probably to be a little bit more risk on, because a lot of what's going on is already priced into the market. We've been saying that for a while. And TED Talks Macro, who's I think one of the most respected analysts in the space, he says the next unwind of protected positions will far outweigh the potential downside. So maybe now it's time to get risk on. And we've been saying get risk on for a while. And specifically, we said that the one ecosystem that you really want to be playing in is you want to be playing in Luna and Terra. It's been one of our favorite positions. Now we know why, and I actually think that after this, Luna is probably above Solana and Cardano, and it should be above Solana and Cardano. Okay, it's still not above Solana and Cardano in market cap. That is crazy. It will be. It was on the weekend, and it will be again. It was on the weekend, and it will be again. Why is Luna acting like this? Why is Luna doing this? Well, for one, there's a Luna supply shock crisis. There is a Luna supply shock crisis. And the reason why there is a Luna supply shock crisis is because if you look at the amount of Luna that needs to be burnt because of the Terra that is created, you know, every time they create UST, they have to burn Luna. You see that this is a table of the amount of Luna that needs to be burnt. And the problem is that if you look at the circulating supply of Luna right now, let's quickly go there so you guys can see it. There's only 376 million Luna in circulation, but they're burning them at a rate of about 1 million a day. They're burning them at a rate of about 1 million a day. And the reason why they're burning them at a rate of about 1 million a day is because if you look at UST is increasing in market cap every single day. So we've got now UST approaching 13 billion in market cap. And if you look at Luna's performance, even against Bitcoin, so even if you look at Luna's performance against Bitcoin, ever since the start of the Ukraine invasions, the supply of Luna has been going up here. Now, I found this tweet, which says, decentralized stablecoins used to be risk-on assets during drawdowns, rotation from decentralized to centralized station coins due to peg risk. Stark difference now with stablecoins like UST seen as safe havens. So people are now switching from centralized stablecoins because what they realize is that when you get into a war type situations and the issuers like USDT and USDC are centralized, that's not a safe place to be. And probably a safer place to be is the decentralized stablecoins. And he says crypto is down 25% in the last 60 days, but the UST supply is up 28% over the past 60 days. And that increase in the UST supply actually has driven the Luna price completely up, which has also driven up the total value locked of Terra to 20 billion, which now brings it just under Ethereum. So you've now got, that's it, you've got crazy. You've got Ethereum, then you got Terra Luna, and then you got Binance Smart Chain. And Terra Luna has now got double the TVL of the Binance Smart Chain. How's that? Double. And this is because what we're seeing is we're seeing amazing protocols which are launching. I told you guys about Astroport, and I still think that there may be an opportunity to be buying Astroport. ASTRO, Astroport, told you at about 65 cents. I think anything under $1, it is under $1. I think anything under $1 is probably a good time to be getting into this. We also saw that Mars Protocol had a successful first launch. Now, Mars Protocol is a lending protocol which is built on Luna Terra, and that had a very, very, very successful launch, or the first phase of its launch. And then you got Levana Protocol. And Levana Protocol is going to be launched, I think, pretty soon. They were waiting for Astroport. Astroport's now launched, and I think that now you're going to get Levana Protocol launching. And I think what we'll do this week is we'll get Jose on from Delphi Digital, because remember that they are the founders of Levana Protocol. They're also the founders of Mars Protocol, and we'll do a whole Terra update. What do you say? I said, we've got to do it. Okay, we've got to start talking a lot more Terra. Anyway, guys, I don't want to run long shows anymore. I think that's a lot of alpha in one show. So I will see you guys again tomorrow. Just a reminder that if you do want to watch the man with the most alpha in the world, he'll be on in about 3 hours, and he'll be talking about...
we'll be talking about the hottest NFT launches to look forward to in March, but we'll also be talking about the biggest NFT expose, so to speak, NFT scandal, so to speak, in February, before we turn the pages to March. So we have a lot to cover today and a ton of news.
Are you talking about that Pixel project, the one that raised $70 million?
I am. And it's because, people need to know the red flags of things, because you can just go on these websites, just to share a little teaser of kind of the things we'll talk about later. You could just go on these websites and type in dragon, and like you could sell so many of these as like a Pokemon game. If you just have these, for example, I would have to turn on my cookies, but you can just see, for example, like these different dragon animations. You can make so many like Pokemon style games out of these. And these are $40, $25. So these are the red flags.
That was such a rug. That was such a fucking rug. That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
We will talk about it and more today on things to definitely watch for in the space, because they made $70 million, but they turned around and used assets like this, very cheap art.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm not going to join you because I'm going out for dinner with a Banter fan. But that's the one I like. I actually like that one. I want to buy it.
Yeah, this is the one I would want to, right? This would be my PFP if I had it.
Yeah, that's my profile pic. All right, buddy. We'll see you later on your show. Pity you're not here in South Africa, because we're going out for dinner to a steakhouse. We're going to get some wine with the whole Banter fam.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I heard it's being produced from the dinner table tonight.
Your show's being produced from the dinner table tonight, bro. All right, see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and trade well, my friends.